listeners, welcome to the soothing bath that is Homo sapiens. We've got a wonderful episode for you today because I've got someone jumping into the co-hosting hot seat who I admired from afar for a long, long time. She's very funny. She's very clever. But then we were linked by a shared love of Agatha Christie, which we can go into. It's radio. What did you tell me to say? TV presenter, radio host, DJ, and she's got her own podcast coming out. Harriet Rose, welcome to the hot seat.
Well, I like that you said, what did you tell me to say? That makes it sound like I'm a tyrant.
Yes.
Make sure you tell everyone how many different jobs I do.
Just, when you have a podcast, as you know, people who come on, they're slashies. They're always slashies, and they've got 7 jobs.
Always.
And I always like to say...
Actor/model.
Yeah. So I always just like to check before, which bit of your bloody career are we focusing on today? And let's be honest, you've got a podcast coming out, so you've come to daddy.
Yeah, big time. I also love the concept of the slash because it really does make like awards shows and stuff really exciting because I got called one time, I got called the host of Hits Breakfast Radio, and I was like, I don't do that. But the thing is, when it happens and they're like, she's a this, she's a that, the only thing I would be annoyed about is if someone was like, and she's straight, I would be like, I'd get on stage and be like, that's a lie.
Dare you? Yes.
Yeah. But other than that, it's quite exciting to think, what are you going to say about me?
But you know what's funny that you say that? Because I just think our minds are so scrambled these days by information and all the rest of it that and we have this thing called, what do people call it? Parasympathetic relationships or whatever, where you think you know someone. And I have that with you. So you and I have been speaking on Instagram, etc. I think we've like seen each other at things, but we haven't actually had a conversation. And I started talking to you about working at Kiss. And as I was talking to you, I was like, I don't think she works at Kiss. And you're like, I think you've just imagined that because you've seen her in a radio studio. And I was like, no, she does. She does. Like, it's very hard to know what people do these days in entertainment.
I agree with you. And I think I am literally the perfect example of that. Because I think if you asked the average person who knows who I am, they wouldn't know. I don't think I know fully because, for example, I don't have a radio show on Kiss, but I'm sort of like one of the faces of Kiss.
Right.
So I do a lot of the interviews. I do all of the chatting to celebs and I have a Kissery show, but people always come up to me and go, I love listening to you on Kiss. And I'm like, that's wild. But what it is because my voice is on almost all the shows.
Oh.
So my interviews are on the different shows. So there's that. And then people always refer to me, I'm a DJ. So my career started as a DJ because no one would hire me as a presenter. So I was like, let me get in the room. And I'm sure as like a director, you probably did stuff like this back in the day. Like, well, it's like when you're a runner first, and then you're a researcher, and you sort of make your way up in that sense. And I was like, let me get in the room by becoming a DJ. And DJing now I just do for absolute like fun. That's all I do it for.
Nice.
And sometimes money. But people always introduce me as like, oh my God, she's the most amazing DJ. And I'm like, honestly, I only DJ about twice a year now. But it's that thing of like what impact you've had on that person. So whatever it is that you have sort of like how you've entered their mind, whether it be at a DJ set or a lot of the time for me, it's people have seen me on TikTok.
Right. So should we just go with Harriet Rose, top international lesbian?
Correct. Yes. That's how I'm mostly known.
Yeah.
Top international lesbian. Could make a film about that. Just saying. Just
throwing ideas around.
Could make a film that you directed called Harriet Rose, top international lesbian.
Great. I'm sort of in. But it's actually, we call, we joke about top international lesbian, but one thing we do all know about you, Harriet Rose, is that no matter who you meet or where you go, you tell people you're a lesbian. It's like this kind of running joke, right? With celebrities, in your celebrity interviews, you always go, have I mentioned I'm a lesbian?
Yeah.
How did that start?
I love doing that. I think I was really embarrassed that I was a lesbian when I first realized I was. Because at that time, it was a while ago. It was like, how long now? I guess 15 years ago, which is wild. Different time even then, 15 years ago. It was not cool to be gay. It was definitely not cool. And I went to a very like quote unquote cool university in London, and yet it still wasn't cool. And I realized I was gay because I kept kissing girls and I was like, this is so great. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And I cried for like 2 weeks. I just was so sad and embarrassed. And then I started being a runner in telly and I met my first girlfriend. And I then started to do presenting stuff. And a lot of people said to me, and / my own internal internalized homophobia, was like, don't tell anyone, because if you tell them, it might make them typecast you. It might make you become like the lesbian presenter. And so my reaction to that, when I became comfortable with who I am, was to sort of go the other way.
Just tell everyone.
And also people love it. Like you would be surprised how many Hollywood celebrities just really love hearing about me being a lesbian, because they don't expect it a lot of the time. So like, you're having a normal conversation and they might say like something about your partner or something, and I'll be like, oh, whoa, don't include me in that because I'm gay. And I think it's just almost a revolution of like, I don't want you to ever for a second think I'm straight. And that's not because there's anything wrong with straight people, but I want you to know there's nothing wrong with gay people. And I don't know if I'm the best representation of gay people, but what I mean by that is like, it's just normal. And I used to do it on the radio. I used to do, when I was on Breakfast with Jordan and Perry, I would be like, they would make jokes and they were brilliant. And they would be like, oh, Homophobia, this is Doja Cat. And it just normalizes it. And that's why I bring it up in every room I go to. And I brought it up with Isla Fisher the other day in an interview. It was so funny. Like she, at the end of the interview, went, I'm really worried you haven't mentioned you're a lesbian in like 5 minutes. And like, that's just fun.
I love it. So top celebrity reaction, top Hollywood celebrity reaction to you saying you're a lesbian?
Oh, I have the best answer to this. I did an interview with Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen of Star Wars fame. And I said, I used to fancy Darth Maul when I was a kid. And they were like, because obviously Star Wars, Darth Maul. And I was like, I fancied him. And as I'm saying it, you're seeing their reactions happen. And they're like, kind of like, yeah, like kind of makes sense. And then I went, and now I'm a lesbian. So none of it makes any sense. And somebody made it into a meme. And it is like a hugely viral.
Wow.
It still goes viral now because both of them went, Hayden Christensen was like sort of smiling, but Ewan McGregor was like, and it was just this meme. And it's the funniest reaction I've ever had, because sometimes men, especially straight men, don't know what to say because they don't, like, loads of men are funny, like, be funny. It's funny to be like, cool, why'd you tell me that? Like whatever you want to respond. But I think nowadays, in this day and age, people are a bit scared of like getting cancelled. So both of them just sort of went like, okay. Because I'm sorry, that's funny. I used to fancy Darth Maul and now I'm a lesbian. Like, what does that mean? I still haven't worked out what that means. But
you've got your life ahead of you. You can take some time to do that. But as the chief comer outer in the workplace, I thought, who else are we going to bloody call if we're going to do an episode about coming out in the workplace? Because it's a really interesting topic because it comes with so many things that queer people have to think about that, you know, non-queer people do. I'm going to dive into some stats. We're going to read them together and then we're going to get talking about it. So the first stat we asked people, are you out at work? Have you come out at work? 87% of you said yes.
That's lovely. That's a nice big amount.
Doesn't that feel like progress?
It's not 100%, but it's 13% being no is low.
It is low. And it's, but there were some stats that come later is interesting. So have you ever regretted coming out at work? 15% of those people have regretted it.
Interesting.
Have you ever regretted being out in the workplace, Harriet?
I have regretted being out in certain scenarios. What a lot of my life is work. So what normal people go sorry, that's not true. Not normal people, but normal jobs are it's something you describe as like a 9 to 5 or something where you go somewhere and then you leave and then it's over. Whereas with my job, it's sort of never over. Even when I go to an event, like you might think, oh, if I go to the theatre, it's like sometimes I'm going there for work or whatever. So I guess I can tie this in with the workplace. There are certain moments where it's not safe to say that you are a lesbian. And what I mean by that is a space that is predominantly filled with misogynistic men. And that happens anywhere. It can happen anywhere. The only time it's ever a regret is when I'm in a room where potentially that's going to be sexualized or not believed or questioned. But in recent years, truly at work, I'm so safe and I'm so looked after, and I really never feel like I regret coming out. I mean, it's a bit too late. Like there's no coming back from my coming out. But
once you become a meme, it's hard. But
yes,
But what we're talking about a bit is, and we were talking about it slightly before we came on air. Let's say on air, because we've got a real life radio person with us today,
live and direct.
Come in, hello, welcome. So you're talking about women's safety in and in male spaces. Tell me about a time when you felt that. You were talking about things becoming sexualized. Tell me more about that.
It's really interesting how often it happens, because I think most women can relate to being sexualized just in general. I'm in the middle of, a lifetime of, people catcalling you in the street. And what I would say is when you're holding hands with a girl at the same time, it becomes more dangerous and exaggerated, because sometimes that's perceived as a threat to and not all men, but very specifically misogynistic men who don't like the idea of their competition being something that they can't compete with. So you can't, as a man, you can't really compete with a woman in the sense that you're not a woman. So I think it scares them, and therefore it can bring out the worst in people. And that is something that I live with and throughout my life. And it has happened, I've been attacked, I've been screamed at, I've been, every possible word under the sun. But honestly, at work, I feel very safe. It's just everywhere else. No, but it's not. I want to just recognize right now my privilege. I'm a white, occasionally straight passing cis woman who is privileged, and therefore that puts me in a much safer position than many other women. Obviously, trans women being a lot of the time the most targeted in this realm. But so it's worth noting that, like, I don't want to say, I have all these difficult experiences without noting that I'm also, though, in a very privileged position.
Well, we come here to speak for ourselves In talking about ourselves, we cannot speak for everyone, but we acknowledge everyone, because
exactly.
And it was a little bit of what we're related to. Do you want to read the next stat? Because I thought this was interesting. Because while 87% of people are out, have a look at the next stat. Harriet.
Do you filter your personal life at work? Which is I love this. 62% of people said yes.
Yeah, that's interesting though.
38% people said no. What do you think about that?
I'm not surprised, because I think I filter myself at work.
I think there's an element where you, and I might be controversial, where you should, whether it's related to sexuality or not. I think in general, and it's not because of others, it's for your own safety. Just, I think I'm really bad at it, and that's why I'm saying this, because I'm so bad at filtering myself. I'll just tell everyone everything, and then actually it can be used as a weapon against you sometimes, because I'm a very emotional person, and once people know that about you, they can use it against you.
Don't tell you. It's converse to the whole idea of we're queer, we're here, get used to it. But you don't have to tell anyone anything about yourself. You don't, and that's for you to judge. And I think that also comes down to, it's not just work. It's like, that thing of like, don't tell, if someone asks you a question that's personal, not about your sexuality, if you don't feel safe answering the question, dodge it. Because I think as a serious oversharer, if anyone asks me anything, I'll always tell them. And actually, even if I'm like, I don't want to answer this question, you shouldn't. You're okay to consider what you think is right. And I do filter myself, because I don't feel the need to explain all the time. That it's not like people don't know I'm gay, but as in like to explain all the time that I'm gay or I have children and how did I get my children and all this stuff. It's like sometimes I just want to gloss over it because it's not that important.
I think another really interesting thing, as two massive gays, we could say now, and I'm not sure how many people would be listening that would need to hear this, because to be honest, most people listening probably know this already. But it's really important. Like when we first had a conversation about your kids and your you being gay, I asked you, is it okay if I ask you some questions about it? Because I think that's another side of it, is remembering that in the workplace, because there's elements outside of you, i.e. your code of conduct at work, etc., sometimes you can't control people's reactions and stuff. And I don't mean about coming out. I mean more about your own autonomy. Like you might not be able to control that they're not going to ask you intrusive questions about things that you don't want to answer. That there's that element of it as well, because some people don't necessarily know the rules of social interaction.
Does anyone, is my big question. No, it's totally true. And I think because ultimately on one level, being gay is who you have sex with. I don't have to talk to anyone about that at work, and that's okay. And we all need to remember that, because we can slightly feel like, well, I'm betraying my forefathers. It's like, no, you're not. Just deal with the moment. Do what you want. People can make assumptions on your behalf as well about your life. And I've had it done to me about like,
have you?
Well, just, people can make out like gay men, I'm talking about specifically, like we're just pleasure centric, stuff. And I'm not particularly cross about that, because I'm not here to re-educate the entire planet. I think perhaps once upon a time I did think I might be, but I think you've got to let people do their thing and not have every fight you can, but at the same time be aware of that and be aware that that might be used against you in some ways. And for example, I'll give you a more concrete example. IMDb, which is the Internet Movie Database, where you're listed as like in your jobs.
I thought you were saying I am DB. I was like, what's DB? Sorry, carry on.
I'm sorry, I don't want to tell you what IMDb is. What my DB is. Double something. No, Internet Movie Database, it's where you're listed. In my job, you get listed there as a director, because I'm a director. And then it asks you to say what you are. Like, are you gay? Are you non-binary? Are you blah, blah, blah? And I find that And the same within America, like you get asked it in the Directors Guild, and I think on the whole it's great, and I know it comes from a good place, but at the same time, like someone searching for directors can just click gay and find all the gay directors, and I don't know how I feel about that, to be quite honest. You know what I mean? Not because I think they're going to attack me. Sorry to qualify.
No,
but yeah.
But that's not the point. It's like so this is really interesting for us in the two jobs that we do. I use talking about the fact that I'm gay to make an impact. That's my sort of like social justice. What one of my social justice mindsets is, the more I talk about it, the more normal it becomes, and the more easy and palatable it is for families to understand that gay doesn't always look the same and blah, 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 blah. But for you, it's pigeonholing you into a place where actually you don't make gay films. You could make a gay film, and I think it would be amazing. Put me in it.
Well, we're doing Harriet Rose the musical, aren't we? Didn't we just agree?
Correct. I like you've made it a musical. But I think for you, it is essentially pigeonholing. Again, that thing that I got threatened with, early days of my career. And I do. And by the way, I do think it has affected how I get jobs. I think there are people that haven't hired me because I'm so out.
Interesting.
I do believe that. And I do think there are examples of that. But
we'll name them in the show notes, listeners. So
yeah. That's no, and I don't, there's no way to tell like, but there's things where I think that's interesting because I've never been hired there or I've never done something with them. And I wonder whether it's because I'm so vocally, I mean, listen, it might not be, but it also might be.
I do remember once when I used to be a music video director and I had an idea for an artist, what I would want the music video to be, because that's what you do as the director. And the feedback was, it's a bit gay. It's just a bit gay. I know this is a while ago, but I was like,
But it's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so interesting because then when people go, "Oh, you're making that up out of nowhere," and I'm like, well.
But also, it was just like it was death to that artist to be perceived as gay. Was the undercurrent as well.
And I think that's really interesting. And I think what we're discussing now is the idea that you are comfortably out. I believe monogamous. Before I say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's only Tuesday. So yeah, it's only Wednesday. So yeah.
Yeah. And this is what we were talking about earlier, is like the idea that all gay men are like these generalizations, all gay men are sexually driven and non-monogamous and polyamorous. And it's like, and all lesbians are not vegan. Okay. I'm definitely not. But the point is that you needing to be known as gay is irrelevant for your career.
Yeah.
Mine, it's relevant because I want to make a difference. And but for you, it's like you coming round and being like, by the way, I'm directing this Agatha Christie and I'm gay. It's like, that doesn't matter.
No.
And it's important, obviously, that in the industry we're hiring more multicultural, more just people with different backgrounds and different interests and different knowledge bases. People who grew up in
Islington. That's all we ask.
Just not everyone.
Yeah.
There was a period of time where I dated just exclusively, accidentally, women from Islington. Anyway, that was a period of my life that's dead and gone.
And we love Islington. Can I just say the highest concentration of Homo sapiens listeners is in Islington. So
shout out Islington. I've probably dated some of you.
Hey girls.
Girls. But I would say that's a really good example of where it's like you don't have to be gay for everybody. You can just be gay for you.
Yeah.
And I'm gay for everybody for a reason. But like you say, if someone contacted you and they were like, "Oh, are you going to make the next Moonlight, or are you going to make the next what's the Timothy Chalamet?
Call Me by Your Name." I'm happy to be gay for everyone, but it's just a slight nuance of like, I want to be in charge of that. You know what I mean?
But that's what I mean. It's that like, you don't need to be gay for everyone. As in what I mean is it's not a performance.
Yeah.
Like where you go, and it's one of those things where I've got used to the fact that in most articles we talk about it, but that's because I want to talk about it. But if you're nominated for an award, it's not because Chris Sweeney's gay, it's because Chris Sweeney's good at directing. But there is the nuance of it being important that we also have I think the thing that is lovely for me is when I get messages from people that just, and it's not just lesbians, it's lots of different people in the queer community just being like, I love that you are so out and you don't care and you love talking about it and you talk about it with everyone. So there is a place for that. There's also a place for being like, I'm a director.
Yeah.
Dot.
Full, complete sentence.
Complete sentence.
Yes. So shall we have a quick squizaroo, he says, like I'm a nursery teacher.
That was very dad
It was
energy.
so dad.
By the way, you're such a dad.
Oh, why?
But you're also a zaddy.
What's a zaddy again?
I think it's I do want someone else to check this, but I think it's just a sexy dad.
Great. Oh, I'm into that.
Yeah. But I do just see you're like gorgeously dad vibes, like very safe energy, very like lovely dad safe energy.
Someone pointed this out on set when I was talking to everyone like they were toddlers. I needed to go into a room. I was like, anyway, I just can't remember what I was doing. They were like, that was strong dad stuff.
Strong dad stuff, but
enjoying my dad
makes you good at your job, obviously.
Yeah, I'm enjoying my dad era. I would have resisted it many years ago. Love it. Oh, it's nice. Question we asked, did coming out improve your work life?
66.
Yeah, 66% said yes. A third of you said no. That's interesting, no?
I am surprised by that a bit. I thought it would be more improving because let's tell you this. Your life's going to improve when I come out of work.
What does that mean?
You're going to realize how much more fun I am.
Yes.
That is really interesting. I recognise when I was a runner and a researcher, I did all the jobs under the sun. So if anyone thinks I'm some diva best believer, that's a Beyonce lyric.
Translate to dad, thank you.
Yeah, daddy, there you go. That I have done every job. I've been a wench at the London Dungeons. I've been a florist. I have been a cocktail waitress. I've been a runner. I've been a researcher. I've been a music manager. Oh. So I've done it all. And I found, especially in television, I would come out as a lesbian and everyone would relax. And it's a weird thing of I have found that coming out at work for some reason chills people out. Now I'm imagining that would be different for men, maybe. And I would imagine it's different for lots of different people in the LGBTQ plus community. But for me, for some reason, it was almost like I wasn't a threat anymore.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I don't mean like because I'm some stone cold stunner.
Although,
I think it's just if you've got eyes, you can see. But I think it's something about I do think lesbians give off safe energy.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my gay male friends, being around lesbians, like there's something about that is sort of, especially the soft masks, where they're like, do you know what, I can take care of you, but I'm also very emotionally adept. So there's something about that. When I was young and I was sort of in my 20s, everyone knowing I was gay, I would get hired a lot. Like I would get brought on projects. Did very well.
Wow, interesting.
And I do think that might be a little bit of the patriarchy of if you're a young, and I definitely wasn't defined as a young, pretty woman. But the young, pretty women, I do think, who are straight, I think they get penalised for it.
They're considered
ditzy. Sometimes.
I do think there can be a vibe. We're talking about working in television. I'm aware that most people listening don't work in television. It's a rarefied world. However, what I just want to say, because it possibly links, I find TV quite like the 1940s. Like it's quite gendered. It's quite, you know what I mean?
Let's go for a dance. Is that what you mean? Everyone's wearing flapper dresses?
No. Like, I just think it's quite trad, you know, like it's very, I don't know. It's quite...
Yes, I think there is a yes. I haven't worked in it on your side for years, but yes.
Well, there's a vibe of like, there's lots of big groups of men who lift things, who build the sets. There's kind of, there's sort of big executives who are men who always have like female assistants. And there's just this, I don't know, it's like, while it's considered a bit of a woke industry sometimes, I think often like the hierarchy, the power structures are quite traditional.
I work a lot with ITV and I love it because there's so many women, female boss, Chalisa. There's so many female bosses.
Actually, I'm not sure how much I agree with everything I just said, but
no. You work in a different world to me. I work in telly entertainment. You work in film and TV, which is different, and there is more of a gendered way of doing things. But the thrill is to say now that there is availability for jobs, for gaffers, for cameramen. Look at me saying that, for camera people, for women, and women should apply, and I hope they do. And when it's a bit like, there's just, the world is gendered in many ways still, and there is that element, but it's just great to see. My perspective is just that from working with ITV, it's exciting because there's a lot, and I'm sure there is, it's just ITV is the main brand that has hired me. BBC.
Are you watching? Shout out. People from the BBC.
Netflix, shout out.
Okay, here's a good one because we've already covered it. What better could you hope for? Do you feel pressure to represent LGBTQ plus people? Well, we've sort of talked about this, haven't we? Yes, 63% of you said. Interesting. Because you feel like you have to be every gay in your workplace.
And I think this is more one for you because, as we say, I love it. And I am happy to take the mantle on. And that's why when I do speak about it, I do make sure to mention my privilege and all that stuff, because I'm very ingrained into doing that, because I do speak about it in the public eye, I guess. But I think in my personal life, that's how I'll sort of like train it. It is a bit exhausting. One thing I find exhausting is about kids.
Yes, go on.
Imagine going up to a straight person and being like, how do you think you're going to have a kid? Like, what do you think you're going to do? Do you think you're going to like have sex with your husband? Or do you think you're going to like do IVF? And it's like, you don't do that. And so it is, unless you are another queer person. So for example, I do ask with consent, because I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I'm still, in that process.
Okay, so Harriet, let's talk about something that we talked about that sparked this entire episode.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced
such a big sigh, sorry.
I'm really out of breath because I had to go and let the boiler man in. But I'll be pleased to let you know, I did represent all gay people. I said, hi, sorry, I'm just recording a gay podcast with my gay friend about gay stuff. And he seemed fine. He seemed fine.
And please respect my privacy at this time.
Yeah, at this difficult time. We said, have you ever experienced homophobia at work? See, serious voice.
Yeah.
73% of you said yes, which is huge.
That's really high. And isn't it funny that the percentages, the way that they're looking, it shows to me the resilience of queer people, because it's like, I don't really regret coming out. I'm happier at work now that I'm out, but have I experienced homophobia? Yeah. Hell yeah. And it's like, that in itself is just representative of how much the resilience the queer community have, because it's rampant.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting, isn't it? We so I haven't experienced it in my directing job, but when the only time we had it, I've had it when doing the podcast, was Will Young and I were driving to we were beginning a tour of the UK to go around the UK and talk about queerness. That was series 2 of this podcast. And we were driving along leaving London, and like on your mind is like, isn't everyone okay with gay stuff? Is this the right thing to be doing? And someone looked at Will in his car and went, faggot! And I was like, oh, there we go. I don't think everything's healed.
And it's so funny to me, the lady doth protest too much.
Yeah.
I just have come to this realization that first and foremost, sexuality is a massive spectrum.
Yeah.
And as we've seen from shows like Heated Rivalry, you know, which love 10 out of 10. But I think there is this element of this. Can I use the word systemic here? Like systemic.
We're
No.
very in that space. We're very in that space.
We are.
Yeah.
Because you did this. So I was like, that means
Oh, no, that was like, you go, girl.
You go, girl.
The dad version.
Yes, daddy. Systemic. I would say we're in a space of systemic, and I hope I'm using the correct word, cultural homophobia, where there is this fear that being perceived as gay or being any part of the spectrum makes your, and in men's case, masculinity questioned. And it's so interesting to me as a lesbian and someone who finds men attractive. I find men attractive. I, you know, in another life, as I say, sexuality is a spectrum. In another life, who knows what could happen? I believe that anybody has the, I don't think it will happen, but I have dated men and I loved my first boyfriend. I was with him for 4 years. You know, there's elements of my sexuality that are a spectrum. And I think that terrifies people. And I think and the reason I know that is because I've experienced it. When I do believe I'm somewhere on the spectrum, and I now identify as a lesbian because I don't want to date men. So that's why I identify as a lesbian. But there were times when I fancied both men and women, and I found them both attractive, and I dated them both. And I remember being like, how big is the lesbian bit? Because can I make it go away?
Yes, totally.
And so I know that is something that can happen. And I think people really don't believe in bisexuality, predominantly in men, but like across the board, I think people just think you're either one or the other and you're just pretending.
Yeah.
And it's so untrue. I believe that there's so many different kinds of sexuality. And I just quite simply think that person who yelled that F slur at you sits somewhere on that spectrum and feels so terrified and intimidated by what you represent, which is comfortability, a massive amount of pride and strength with your queerness, especially someone like Will, who's obviously gone through it in that sense in front of the world, you know, came out in front of everybody.
Maybe our zaddy energy as well.
Oh, big time. Big time. But I think it's really sad because I don't think people realize how fun it is over here.
Oh, it's such a laugh. We do.
And I think...
Were you saying to me earlier, or am I having a mind fart, where you say to your friends, I just love being gay?
Well, I didn't say that, but yeah. I love being gay. I love women. I love the community. I love being part of the community. And I always say to my friends, I've got a lot of mates who are like on the spectrum, not the autistic ADHD spectrum, the LGBTQ plus spectrum. And I mean, I've also got a lot of mates on the autistic ADHD spectrum as well, including myself. But the spectrum of LGBTQ plus, a lot of women that I know especially are like, oh, I don't really want to say that I'm queer because I've never dated a woman and I've never done it and I've got a boyfriend. And I'm like, come and join us. Like, you don't have to have had sex with someone of the same sex or someone in the LGBTQ plus community to see yourself as queer. Because in the same way, if you're an 18-year-old virgin, you have sex with someone for the first time. Before that, it doesn't mean you don't know what you are. Like, you know, as in, don't get me wrong, people change as they experience things. But what I mean is, if you want to have sex with someone of that gender, then you want to have sex with them. It doesn't sort of matter that you've actually done it or not.
Very true. Now, Harriet, I'm going to ask you to read a couple of these ones that people have sent in.
Okay, here's one. Working with children is always interesting because they and parents feel invincible.
Invincible what? To call out your gayness? Do you think that's what that means? Don't know.
I don't know.
You have to
Working with children is always interesting because they and parents feel invincible.
Well, then,
interesting. I don't know what to. I'm actually not going to comment on it because I have no idea what it means.
Well, that's never stopped me, but I agree. So actually, here's one that I was alluded to what I was talking about earlier. I'm a carpenter in film set construction. Homophobia is still about, but reduced around me. That's sort of that old school thing, you know?
That's interesting as well, that it is reduced around
Yes.
them.
I have felt that. I felt I've gone into a room and the homophobia has gone down. And that's completely in my head. But have you ever felt that? Not the homophobia,
Well,
the laddie vibe has amended because of who I am.
Massively. I don't think people... I think I'm a bit... don't get me wrong, I scream and shout about it, but there's still lots of people who have no idea who I am. So people just... I'm sort of a bit of a stealth in the sense that sometimes people don't know I am. But I will be honest, I think the people I surround myself with recognise that actually being queer is pretty great. And actually my straight friends specifically are pretty gutted that they're not able to, have an experience on the...
Join the party.
Yes. And I think, so that's my experience. I haven't really experienced walking into a room and feeling like people are not making gay jokes. I think they would, if anything, make more gay jokes. And I quite like that. Like when I worked with Jordan and Perry and stuff, I remember they sat me down and they were like, we don't, because I'm very jokey to them.
Yes.
And they were always like, let us know what the boundaries are. Let me know where you're at with this kind of stuff. And we just got to this beautiful place where they would take the piss out of me, same as they would take the piss out of a straight person. It's not about being gay. The difference with fun jokes and being silly is consent, like, knowing that person is comfortable with it. But then secondly, it is making it not about being gay.
Totally.
It's like, it's like making a joke about a straight man, because there's a few jokes, and straight men, is fun. And then one of my podcast episodes is with Jonathan Ross, who I love so much. And I worked with him on The Masked Singer. And throughout our interview, I called him a soft mask lesbian because he was dressed like a soft mask lesbian. And that's a bit of a laugh. And he thinks it's fun and funny and silly. And so there is elements where I think you can have fun with stuff, but it's about consent and mutual appreciation for each other and level playing fields and not power imbalances. So but I think that's different in, for example, for a carpenter, where it's like gay jokes might be a bit more basic and they might be a bit more like more sort of retro.
Carpentry and all that, they're just very male spaces, and therefore that means they can be quite straight spaces. No one, I don't know, people don't mean to be like that, but there's not often a lot of space for other experiences I've found when I'm in those rooms.
I should talk to my friend, by the way, shout out Eloise, my friend, who I've known for a long time. She is an incredible lesbian carpenter.
Hello, Eloise. Well,
hello, lesbian
coming
carpenter.
to a film set near you, please. Dog's here, by the way.
Oh, hello. So here's one. Being asked by a senior male colleague whether I really only do girls. And they have asked me to remain anonymous. And I'm assuming this person identifies as a woman and identifies potentially as a lesbian. That's what I'm getting the suggestion of. And first and foremost, that is exactly what I'm talking about. When it's female, it's sexualized in general, as in when you're a queer female, it tends to be more, because that's a very sexual question for your senior male colleague to essentially say, do you just have sex with women?
Yeah.
Imagine if I came up to you and I said, on a set, but I'm the exec, I am the person paying for the film. Just imagine I'm this bad bitch. But I came up to you and I said, in front of people, Chris, do you just have sex with your husband?
I'd say, yes, Your Honour, please may I have a job. Please may I keep my job.
But isn't that so scary?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier, isn't it? It's like, why are we talking about sex at work?
And I think also something that men, and a lot of men do understand, and it's not something to attack men on, but it's something to make men recognise, is you pose a threat to women. there is all the statistics and all the facts to say that women are threatened in many scenarios by men.
Yeah.
So, for example, the impact of a male senior colleague versus a female senior colleague is bigger. And yes, that might feel unfair to men, but do you know what else is unfair? Us feeling scared all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it works similarly in the carpenter situation. There is a choice that straight men can make of, I don't want to make my carpenter colleague feel uncomfortable, so I'm not going to say this joke. If you think it's going to make this person uncomfortable, don't say it at all.
Mhm.
Because why are you saying it just when they're out of the room?
Totally.
And then in this scenario, it's just about recognizing that you might not see the harm in what you're saying. You might see it as flattering, you might see it as questioning. Someone might go, oh, well, he was only just curious. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, he can Google it at home. But the reality is that he can, as a power imbalance man in a business work environment, pose a threat to somebody less powerful than him, somebody who is not the same sexuality and is part of a minority group. That's the thing we need to recognize. It's not about, because I think a lot of men would be like, but I'm confused because I just want to ask questions and I want to, be, and it's like, but recognize the power imbalance first.
Yeah.
Before you make the joke, before you ask the question, maybe there's someone else you can make a joke to that isn't, maybe you could make a joke to your superior and see how that goes. Because I wonder whether you would.
Yes. Yeah. And also, it's important to say at this juncture, as we have to come to a close, and I still want to talk to you about your podcast. And what we've got loads more here, listeners. So we do the email catch-up episode after this, and I'll continue reading your stories because you sent loads in. On a kind of more serious note, maybe, one thing I love, Harriet, is that you are telling the perpetrators how to behave. And I think that's really important because it shouldn't be on the victims in inverted commas when it comes to homophobia in the workplace. But you do have rights. And if you're experiencing this kind of thing, go to your HR department if you have one. I know not every workplace does, but it should. And, you have rights to complain about this stuff, and you should.
And I actually recently did just that in a scenario where I was being harassed, and not in work at all.
Yeah.
And it was more, I've gone more on the business side of it in terms of I'm not going to lie, I used, and I don't agree with using ChatGPT en masse, but in certain circumstances like this, I used it to write a legal letter to this person to say, if you do this again, I'm going to seek legal advice. So I'm going to do this, because I think sometimes we feel helpless as women and queer people. I think we feel helpless of, well, it's going to cause me more harm than good. I might lose my job.
Yeah.
But actually, when you do that for yourself, and this is just for me, I think when you do make that complaint, put that piece forward to your HR department, that does something to you too. And listen, I'm no expert. I don't know. It's all circumstantial. It's all based on personal experience and what's actually going on, the laws. But I do think your HR department is there to advise and help you, but also empower you to feel like you can stand up and say something.
Yeah. Yeah. Stick up for yourself. I love it. Harriet, handbrake, change of subject, because we've got to finish. Harriet, tell me about your podcast.
Funnily enough, I think you've probably got the vibe from this podcast. I love to talk about being gay. And I think of ideas all the time, and I'm always like writing ideas down and skits and comedy. I write a lot of comedy skits because
cool.
I don't have a time to like film a lot of them, but like I basically love comedy and I love that kind of stuff. And I was writing this idea down, and it was like, by the way, I'm gay. And it was like the fact that I go into every room and I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm gay. Just by the way, like I'm gay. And the concept came to me of the thing that nobody asks you, like the thing that no one wants to know, but you're like, by the way, I love, or a lot,
Yes.
A lot of people, especially people I interview, celebrities, singers, artists, actors, don't get the chance to talk about their passions.
Yes.
Like my mindset on it is Robert De Niro going to come in and sit down and talk about gardening? And how interesting that is. And the guests that we've had thus far, Jade Thirlwall is our first guest. You're the first person I'm telling that to. She did an incredible one. We're talking about, you know, star signs, medical conditions, things that your favorite famous people hate. Like, and they just have a chance to talk with passion about something inane. And it's honestly, when I came up with the idea, I remember I told my agent and she was like, oh my God, this is it. Because we've been trying to think of an idea for such a long time. And I think truly as humans, we're desperate for human connection. And I think this is the Human Connection podcast. It's hearing somebody you know and love talking about something so normal and so silly and interesting and funny. And I just am so excited for people to join the gang and join us and listen and watch.
Listeners, I've got to give you some instructions, as we always do.
Yes.
Write in with your reactions to these polls and these stories. hello@homosapienspodcast.com, at homosapiens on Instagram. Please, we are supporting Not a Phase this season. If you want to nominate somebody you know or yourself to have some gender-affirming underwear bought for you, please write in to the same email, hello@homosapienspodcast.com. Follow us at Homo Sapiens Pod on YouTube so that you can view the videos, because Harriet and I have, you know, dressed up all beautiful just so you can see our faces, because every podcast is a video these days. That just leaves me to say, Harriet, I hope you'll come back. We have absolutely adored having you. I love chatting to you. You are just pure, unbridled fun. Says this is
I
Zaddy.
love chatting to you. And I wish I'd had a chance to talk about my love for you, because it's deep.
You're very kind.
And I'm a bit obsessed with you, because we sort of like with I really want to say this, just like with our connection, like you'd contacted me about this podcast and I was like, kept saying to my team, I was like, we have to do this podcast. And if you saw my diary, you'd understand that it's not personal. It's just very, very busy. And then you posted about Agatha Christie and then things just exploded, because I didn't realise that Chris directed Agatha Christie. And I've been trying to get into an Agatha Christie film or TV show for so many years. And now I've become Chris's stalker.
Great.
So next episode might be about the restraining order that he's got out on me, but let's see how.
I love that idea.
And also, how can I sponsor somebody?
We're raising money. Homo Sapiens is raising money. So if you want to
I'm going to give you some money.
Thank you very much.
I would love to give you some money for that.
Wonderful. Well,
I love Not a Phase.
As we both know, Not a Phase is just the biddly best. And Danny is co-hosting this podcast as well. So
amazing. And me and Danny are doing something together, the big Wembley thing.
Oh, Transmission.
I am the voice of Transmission.
Well, I need to talk to you, Harriet, because we are doing a whole podcast episode down there. Listeners, thank you for listening. Harriet, thank you for joining. Sending everyone loads of love from me and from Ridley and from Harriet. It's goodbye.